right, good morning. We're ready to,
No, we have to wait till I make sure.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman Gaines, can you just hold on 1 second? They are ready.
great, good morning. We're ready to call the board meeting to order. It is 9:58. Is that accurate? I'm showing 10:03. Okay, so it's 10:03 on Wednesday, March 26th. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll. That's right.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Chairman Gaines.
Here.
Yes, Vice Chair Lieber. Here. Mr. Vasquez.
Present.
Mr. Schaefer.
Present.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Present.
All right, a quorum is present, and the board meeting is called to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead that. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and start with opening remarks, and member opening remarks, if any, are limited up to 3 minutes each, if you could, please. And let's see, do we have comments? Okay, so why don't we start with Member Vasquez, and we'll work ourselves across.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Gaines. I wanted to open up this morning with the recognition of March, as International Women's Month, to celebrate the outstanding achievements of the women throughout history in our society. March is also designated as Women's History Month as a presidential proclamation to honor women's contributions throughout American history. The 2025 theme is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations, celebrating the powerful influence of women who have dedicated their lives to education, achievement, and leadership. International Women's Day, celebrated annually on March the 8th, commemorates women's fight for equality, and the theme for 2025 is Accelerated Action, emphasizing the importance of decisive steps to achieve equality in the workplace and elsewhere. Two powerful examples of the growing influence of equality of women today came to mind when I was just thinking, and as I've been watching, and some of you have probably been watching the women's basketball competition. These last year, I think it's really when it really kind of tipped it for me. I'm a more of a Lakers fan, watching mostly professional. Never really cared much about college, but last year, with these young women that stepped up, actually I found them a little bit more exciting and actually more competitive because they pretty much play basketball the old school way. When you're watching professionals now, it's all these three-pointers, they're not really driving the lane. And you see these women, and they're just like taking it to another level. And as a result of that, I just saw somewhere that, now the commercial of the advertisement that's drawing and the power, the economic power that's bringing into professional women's basketball is unbelievable. Granted, they're not still getting paid what they should, comparable to men in sports, but I thought that was something to see. And then I'm watching it this year, but then my poor girl, man, from the Trojans, Judo just tore her ACL, so looks like she's out. But we still have a decent team. I don't know if we'll make it to the top four, but with that, I just wanted to bring that out. And then as I look at here, just in Sacramento, the Latino caucus, I remember when I used to watch it back 20, 30 years ago, it was pretty much dominated by males. And now half of the legislators in the Latino caucus are women, Latina women that have gotten elected and are part of the leadership. And so then I was looking at just the overall, and both here in Sacramento, the women legislators between the Assembly and the Senate are like 49% now. Not quite half, but they're getting there. So kudos to the women. And with that, I'll bring it back to our chair. Thank you, Member Gaines.
Wonderful. Yes, Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you. Yes, welcome to Women's Month. And the women in the state legislature missed having at least 50-50 by just one seat. So we're coming for that. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the federal changes and how it affects our work here in California. I think we would all agree from our prior service in public office or just public service that predictability, fairness, and transparency are the pillars of good governance. And I've been thinking a lot recently about the interactions between predictable revenues and predictable quality public services. And I think we have to say predictable now with caution and a real sense of urgency. There has been recently an upending of the concept of predictable. And as members of the Board of Equalization, we are custodians of California's property tax system, the property tax revenues that our education system and our local governments rely on. But we know that property taxes do not and cannot fund education and local governments in their entirety, but are simply a complement. In 25-26, the revenue from the federal government is projected to comprise over 34% of our state budget, or $170 billion. And two of the areas that are highly at risk is K-12 education and local government services through Medi-Cal. K-12 education receives almost $8 billion in federal funding, and these federal dollars assist economically disadvantaged students and students with disabilities in our communities. These federal funds complement funds from California's property tax system and from the general fund. Medi-Cal funding coming from the federal government is over $108 billion. And we all know what Medi-Cal covers: low-income individuals, families with children, seniors, people with disabilities, youth in foster care, pregnant women, and low-income people. And currently, more than 5 million children, which is more than half of all of California's children, receive Medi-Cal. 2.3 million seniors and people with disabilities, 3.4 million working Californians, nearly 1 in 5 of all California workers who we cannot run our state without their labor. 14.9 million Californians in total, which is more than 1 in 3 of all Californians. So I think you see why we are saying that predictable is so important. The Kaiser Family Foundation has estimated that proposed Medicaid cuts represent 24% of Medicaid spending per California resident. There is really a seamless connection between the work that we do here and all of our revenue sources, and I think that we have an obligation to really think through what the increased call on property taxes is going to be like, so that we're prepared to answer constituent questions. And in the future, I think it would be very prudent of the board to consider the impact of proposed federal cuts and how our property tax system may be prepared and utilized for a response. And in my remaining minute or so, to end that note of the need to prepare and to understand our state fiscally, I'd just like to recognize that one of our board members had his birthday yesterday, Mr. Schaefer, And Mr. Schaefer, I wanted to wish you a great year ahead. You are a unique Californian. I was trying to think on my way to the meeting today, have I ever known anybody else like Mr. Schaefer? And I can honestly say no. And so you really add something to this board, and I hope you have a great year ahead. And our other birthday, which actually is today, is our executive officer, Yvette Stowers. And Yvette, there are just not enough words to compliment you on the job that you do and how much you give to this board and how much service you have given over time to the people of the state of California and to make sure that our tax system is the best that it can be and is transparent and that we have outreach to every Californian who needs our help. So thank you so much. We hold you in so much esteem and recognize that during Women's History Month too, that you are a woman of excellence and we appreciate you. And happy birthday.
Wonderful. Thank you. And additional comments?
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Amaro,
Chairman. Good morning to you all. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the Executive Director and members of the public for joining us at this March meeting. I want to first start, last Thursday, I joined at the California State Capitol, and there was a resolution declaring March as Afghan American Heritage Month. And I want to shout out Assemblymember Dr. Sharp Collins for putting this forward. It's a historic resolution for the community, and incredible work by several organizations that put this forward. And I'm reminded of the story of my parents and my own story about how I ended up here. My parents escaped war and poverty and violence when the Soviet Communist Union invaded Afghanistan in the 1980s, and they came to California for a better life, to chase that California dream. And we started off very humble beginnings. We were able to work our way up, beat the odds, and give back ultimately. And I've devoted my career to doing that, and I'm reminded about all the other Afghan-American communities from Sacramento to Fremont to Los Angeles and San Diego that are doing incredible work. So many that are contributing in so many fields as police officers and teachers and artists and entrepreneurs and doctors and lawyers and engineers. So it's just an incredibly historic and monumental day. We got to join the assembly member on the assembly floor to declare this official resolution. So just so honored to have this resolution bestowed upon the community and just continuing to advocate and do the work. Unfortunately, history has repeated itself, and 35 plus years later, the Afghanistan governments fell to the Taliban. It's a rogue militia group, and you're starting to see women's rights and human rights in general be violated and drawn back. And I can't help but think about my mom being in that position and continuing to fight. And maybe it's a small twist of fate that afforded her the position that she's in today, where she got to be in California and raise her family, and not be that young girl in Afghanistan that can't go to school past 6th grade. And she ended up enrolling herself in community college to show an example for young Afghan girls and her children in general that your dreams are alive, that education is a key to economic mobility, to upward mobility. So it was a very, very heartfelt day. I want to shout out the assembly member again. I can't speak to how much impactful that was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you. And Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to recognize Claude Parrish, our former colleague on the board, and is present today. Nice to see you. I'm very impressed that we have a birthday girl today. If I were staging the event, I'd have half a dozen balloons with helium on them on her chair. That's what we do when we go to a restaurant and celebrate somebody's birthday. I thought I had a exclusive franchise on announcing birthdays, but thank you so much, Ms. Lieber, and I appreciate the kind words. There are two important birthdays today in the world that I always like to recognize. One is Nancy Pelosi. She's 81 today. I've met Nancy several times. She's always showing up at fundraisers for Democratic candidates. I was in Baltimore for a number of years, and her brother and her father were both mayors of Baltimore, Maryland, and they have a street named after the family there. And I've got her book that she came out with recently, all about her career and her problems with her husband being assaulted. And she's really an icon of our government, and I'm so proud of her. But a real icon is Robert Frost. He would be 151 if he were still with us. We lost him in 1973, the poet of New England. I had the honor of meeting him when he came to UC Berkeley. And I asked the great Mr. Frost if he would give me an autograph. And he said, I only sign my writings, my poetry. So there was a book nearby, and I grabbed the book and opened it, and there was a poem called The Turf of Flowers, and it said, and I wrote out the words from it as all men work together, I told them from the heart, whether they work together or apart. And I wrote that down, and then Robert Frost himself signed it, and I was so proud of that. I wanted to share those two people out of society that we should take note of today, and thank again Sally for her kind words.
Great. Thank you, Member Schaefer. And if I can just conclude, I again want to recognize you, Member Schaefer. And I believe you're the oldest elected constitutional officer in California history. Is that correct?
That's correct, and I don't think anyone will ever catch up with me. I've set a pretty high bar at 87 yesterday.
Yes, yeah. So congratulations for that, and I hope you had a good birthday and
I
a good
did. I
celebration.
had coffee with friends, and I had dinner at a piano bar last night.
Yes, wonderful. That's great. And then also wanted to recognize our executive director, Yvette Stowers, who's doing a great job. And I hope you have an opportunity to celebrate too after our meeting that hopefully won't be too long-winded, but hopefully give you an opportunity to go out to dinner or do something to celebrate. And then finally, in terms of Women's Month, I did want to recognize that and the importance of women in our society and the roles that they've played. And I've got kind of an interesting story in the sense that I have different roles by different women within our own family. And my mom raised 5 of us, 5 kids, and then felt called to the church and became an Episcopal deacon and then a priest, and did a lot of pastoral care. That was kind of her focus on helping those who were sick and dying. And so I was always proud of the role that she played in that, and that was not a difficult path. That was a difficult pathway in the late 70s, early 80s. And then my wife, I just cherish her and the great things she's done in terms of raising our children and her willingness to serve in the state assembly, but also very focused on our kids and our grandchildren. And then our daughter is running our family business. So I'm grateful for the roles that women play, and I'm glad that they've got so many more opportunities today than they have had historically. And we're all parts of a large puzzle, and so it's nice to have the ability for everybody to figure out where they fit in that puzzle and play a role. So we can now move on to our next item here. Let's see. We've got opening remarks. Ms. Cicchetti, could you please call our first order of business?
Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to the Malee State Office Complex. Our first announcement is our safety announcement. In the auditorium, the exits are in the front of each side of the stage, and other exits are at the rear. Please take a moment to find the exit sign and location closest to you in the event of an emergency. The emergency exits behind and to the side of the stages should only be used for an emergency. Our informational announcement. I want to remind the audiences to silence your cell phones and other wireless devices. The meeting will be live streamed to the public and posted on the BOE website. Therefore, we ask all speakers in the auditorium, on the AT&T telephone line, or on the teleconference line to state their names before speaking for the record. We ask that you speak clearly and slowly. Note that public comments are taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment on matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. We recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of the agenda item which you wish to comment on. We recommend this as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes our safety and informational announcements. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Ms. Cicchetti, did you want to recognize the controller?
Yes, I was just
Great.
going to say, I believe Ms. Controller Cohn is on remotely. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
I have a statement that I need to read. When a board member of the board attends the meeting by teleconference from a remote location, the member shall disclose whether any other individuals 18 years or older are present in the room at the remote location with the member and the general nature of the member's relationship with such individuals. Therefore, Controller Cohn, is there anyone 18 years of age or older present in the room with you at your remote location?
No, I'm by myself.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, we're now ready to move on to public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda may do so under this item. Please note that the board cannot act on items not on the agenda. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings. When given your public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We do not have any written comments for this item, or anyone in the auditorium who wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And for public comment, please press 1 followed by 0 at this time. 1 followed by 0. And we have no one in public comment at this time.
Hearing no comments, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Extenet Systems, California, LLC, 8093 audit. This matter is a constitutional function. Mr. McCool, would you present this matter?
Apologize. Before we move any further, I asked Ms. Cohen, you have to keep the, according to the Bagley-Keene rules, you must keep your, camera on. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Gaines and honorable members of the board. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. The State Assessed Properties Division performs routine audits of state assessees under the authority of California Revenue and Taxation Code Section 828 and Government Code Section 15618. The purpose of a property tax audit is to determine the accuracy, completeness, and reliability of the financial data furnished by state assessees and used by the board in the valuation process. Audits also include an internal review of the methods, calculations, and assumptions used by the State Assessed Properties Division. Before you today for your consideration are 2 property tax audits completed by State Assessed Properties Division staff. The assessees have been presented with a copy of the audit report and given a 30-day window to provide additional information in response to the audit report. Upon adoption of each audit, the assessee will receive official notice of their value change and are provided 50 days in which they may file an appeal. The first audit is for Extenet Systems. Extenet is a telecommunications company. They were provided a copy of their audit report, and they did provide additional information in response to the 30-day notice. Staff evaluated the additional information and did make an adjustment to the initial audit report. I ask for your adoption of the audit for Extenet Systems, California, LLC. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members, would anyone like to make a motion on this item? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And please press 1 then 0 at this time for public comment. 1 followed by 0. And we have no public comment in queue at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Member Vasquez has made a motion to adopt audit adjustments of Extenet Systems, LLC, California LLC, and Vice Chair Lieber is seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, members. Item number 3 on the agenda, Vero Fiber Networks LLC, 8228 audit. This matter is a constitutional function. Mr. McCool, would you please present this matter?
Yes, thank you. The next audit is for Vero Fiber Networks, LLC. Vero Fiber is a broadband telecommunications company. They were provided a copy of their audit report and findings. Vero Fiber did submit additional information during the 30-day review period. Staff agreed with the requested changes and made adjustments to the audit findings. I ask for your adoption of the audit for Vero Fiber Networks, LLC. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members, would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
So moved.
Okay, have a second? Okay, wonderful, thank you. Public comment on item number 3. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And please press 1 then 0 at this time for public comment. We have no one in public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Member Vasquez has made a motion to adopt audit adjustment of Vero Fiber Networks LLC with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. Item 4 on the agenda, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, 0135, Land Escaped Assessment. This matter is a constitutional function. Mr. McCool, would you please present this matter?
Thank you. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 758 allows for the addition of assessments to the roll that have escaped assessment. I'm here this morning to present land escaped assessments for the board's consideration. Items number 4 through 6 represent new property acquired by state assessees that they failed to report timely and as a result escaped assessment. All 3 assessees have been notified of their escaped assessments and have been given an opportunity to provide additional information to change our escaped assessment findings. In addition, each assessee will have 50 days after adoption of the escaped assessments to file an appeal if they so choose. The first set of land-escaped assessments for the board's consideration are for Pacific Gas and Electric Company. PG&E provided additional information during the 30-day review period, and as a result, staff made adjustments to our initial escaped assessment recommendation for PG&E. The escaped assessment before you for PG&E involves 3 land parcels reported to our office late in 3 different counties, 1 land parcel each in El Dorado, Plumas, and Santa Barbara. Members, I ask for your adoption of the escaped assessments for Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members, would anyone like to move to approve the proposed unitary land escape assessments of Pacific Gas and Electric Company?
I'd so move.
Okay, we've got a motion, and do we have a second? Okay, great. Thank
I had a question. Mr. Chairman, I don't see why, quote, "not subject to contribution disclosure statute" appears on all of these. I thought any item on our docket, if we had over $250 or more contribution, we were prohibited from participating. Is there some reason we have this waiver as to each of these items?
We'll get advice here from our legal counsel. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Richard Moon, Chief Counsel. That's because this is a non-adjudicatory matter, so the contribution disclosure is not required, so
Oh,
that's why that's
the
there.
reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Any other questions? Okay. Member Schaefer has made a motion to approve the, excuse me, am I at the right spot here? Okay. Member Schaefer has made a motion to approve the proposed unitary land escape assessments of Pacific Gas and Electric Company with member Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we go out to the AT&T moderator on this item?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
So let's do that. Public comment on item number 4. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you, and please press 1 then 0 if you have a public comment at this time. And no public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Any further discussion? Okay. Member Schaefer has made a motion to approve the proposed unitary land escaped assessments of Pacific Gas and Electric Company with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, members. Item 5, Southern California Edison Company, 0148, land escaped assessment. This matter is a constitutional function. Mr. McCool, will you please present this matter?
Yes, thank you. The next land escapes are for Southern California Edison Company. They were provided a copy of the land escape assessments. They will have 50 days after adoption of the escaped assessments in which they may file an appeal. The land escaped assessments before you for SCE are for 2 land parcels reported to our office late, both in Los Angeles County. I ask for your adoption of the land escaped assessments for Southern California Edison Company. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members, would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
I
Mr.
second.
Vasquez. Okay. Mr. Schaefer, thank you. Public comment on item number 5. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Okay, and please press 1 then 0 for public comment at this time. And we have no public comment at this time.
Great, thank you, moderator. Members, is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve the proposed unitary land escape assessments of Southern California Edison Company, and Member Schaefer has seconded. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. Item 6, Selco Partnership 2559, Land Escape Assessment. This matter is a constitutional function. Mr. McCool will present this matter.
Thank you. The final set of land escapes are for Selco Partnership, which does business as Verizon Wireless. They were provided a copy of the land escaped assessments. They will also have 50 days after adoption of the escaped assessments in which they may file an appeal. The escaped assessment for Verizon Wireless is for 3 land parcels reported late, 1 land parcel each in Calaveras, Mariposa, and San Diego counties. I ask for your adoption of the land escaped assessments for Selco Partnership. Thank you.
Members, would anybody like to make a motion? Okay.
So moved.
Mr. Vasquez. Okay. Vice Chair Lieber, thank you. Public comment on item number 6. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And please press 1 then 0 if there is public comment at this time. And we have no public comment at this time.
Members, is there any discussion? I just have a question of clarification in terms of these indicated escaped assessments. So does Selco have an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
And then make comment back to us?
Yes,
at the
in
BOE?
all of these instances, we send a notice with the full information, the values and the parcel numbers for the escaped assessments that we believe missed assessment on our roll, and we provide a 30-day window of opportunity for the assessee to provide additional information. It could have been, we had something misfiled on our end, it could have been maybe they double filed. So there's, in particular for item number 4 today, PG&E, they did provide us with additional information. So we did remove some land parcels from our initial escaped assessment for that one. So that's
Yeah,
an example of the opportunity they do have to
Right.
review this. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like a fair process in that you're able to provide, as the or the party being assessed, you have an opportunity to provide more information, and then the BOE can make adjustments accordingly.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that's great, thank you. And any other discussion? All right, so Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve the proposed unitary land escape assessments of Selco Partnership. Vice Chair Lieber has seconded. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. All right, the next item is
Mr. Gaines, Chairman Gaines, can I
Yes.
interrupt really
Yeah.
quickly? We've had a request to go back to item number 1. We have
Okay.
someone who has arrived in the audience and who would like to make a public
Sure.
comment.
All right, let's
So if we
return
could
to,
return back to item number 1, public comment on matters not on the agenda.
wonderful,
Thank you very much.
that's great.
I will be as brief as I can. I did a convention for the California Assessors Association 8 years ago, so it's finally come around again that I'm going to be having a convention at Knott's Berry Farm in October. And I wanted to invite any and all of you, or at least some representative, to our event, which will be in October of this year. And also, I enjoy coming up here, and as you know, I was a former member of the board, and very supportive of what you've done and how you've supported us. And we hope that 1 or 2 or all of you are certainly welcome to the convention. So that's just a basic notice. and we'll send you the exact date in future. So I just want to lay that out and tell you here, and then you know this is Legislator Day, and so I've been going around. But thank you so much, and it's always nice to see every single one of you. Very nice.
Well, thank you so much. Any comment from the board? Okay, Executive Director
Thank you,
Sowers.
Thank you, Assessor Parrish. Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. I just wanted to clarify the date for that conference is October 6th through the 9th.
October 5th,
October 6th through the 9th?
October 6th.
Yes.
And it's where here?
Knott's Berry Farm.
Knoxberry Farm,
Oh, yes, yes.
District 4.
We've been there.
It's going to be nice.
And we have that date on our calendar, and there's no conflict with our monthly meetings.
Fantastic.
It's in October, she had the dates.
The date, I know the dates, October 6th through the 9th.
Yes.
The theme, I think they're still in the planning stage for a theme.
But it's going to be nice. I haven't done it since, 8 years ago I did. My time came around again. And I'll have to wait another 8 years to do it again, so I certainly hope you can make it.
Assessor Parrish, would you please come forward to the podium? There's a question.
Sure.
Just want to clarify, just to the podium there, yeah.
to the podium.
So you're at the microphone so we can hear you.
Of course, yes, yes.
Thank you. And I know that as members, we're not allowed to respond to public comment matters
Oh.
on the agenda.
Yeah.
But I wondered from staff, does that extend to telling Assessor Parrish that he's always very welcome here?
Well, you're very gracious.
Thank
I do
you
everything
for
I
being
can
here.
to support the board. It's very, very important. I look for the time when the sales tax area would be also under your authority, which would be more appropriate. But we're very happy, I'm very happy to do everything I can to support the State Board of Equalization. I'm sorry, others don't, but I realize as a former member how important it is, and how important it is to the people of the state of California that we allow them to speak to their elected officials and have the power under the state of California for all of the taxes that they used to. I'm hoping that sometime in the future that authority is reinstated. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude Parrish,
Very good,
Orange
right.
County Assessor, and we appreciate what you do because you've always been very engaged with your constituents and are a true public servant. We appreciate, and I think all of us appreciate our ability to help our constituents.
That's right.
And I think you've always exemplified that, so appreciate that. Thanks for coming up to Sacramento.
Very kind of you, each and every one of you.
Very
I know
well.
each and every one of you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we are now back at the consent agenda. And that is item 7, and that is adoption of the...
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Chair, and colleagues, hi, it's Malia.
Oh,
I am not here with you.
Hi,
I'm
Controller
actually
Cohen.
in
How are you?
New Haven.
Oh, yes.
Good morning, good morning.
Yes.
I wanted to, before I depart, I wanted to just offer some comments on item 11. I've
Okay.
briefed my staff, Deputy Controller Hasib Emran. He will go into more greater detail.
Okay.
But I just wanted to raise a concern that I had about the legislative matters that are on our agenda. It was just unclear to me if there was a fiscal impact report or some kind of a report that would highlight the impact of this legislation that we are considering that's on our agenda. And this, again, is a hypothetical question. I don't know the answer. I'm sure Member Vasquez did his homework and his due diligence, and it wasn't just attached to the packet, to the agenda packet, but I just wanted to flag that I'm a little concerned that we're being asked to take up legislative matters, but we don't have the full legislative picture, the fiscal impact, if there's opposition, if the opposition has been invited to present. So I just want to make sure that if we take a position on legislation, that we are thoughtful and democratic about the approach.
Yeah.
And again, I am just bringing this to the body on my own. And then when item 11 comes up, Hasib Emran will raise a few questions
Okay,
as well.
great. Thank you, Controller
Thank you,
Cohen.
colleagues. You're welcome.
Great, thank
Bye-bye.
you. We appreciate that. And so maybe what we could do is as we move forward on legislative matters, maybe that could be an issue of discussion too, in terms of, because it's kind of, I think through great effort by this board and members in particular of developing our relationship with the legislature, they're seeking our input and support of legislation that's moving through that is relevant to the BOE. And so maybe that begs a question in terms of what sort of vetting should we do as these bills move forward. And we have the blessing of Ted Angelo, who has provided us a lot of kind of backup information, but we can discuss this, I think, as we move forward on the agenda item. But I think it's worth discussing. So let us go back, if we could, to our, we're back to the consent agenda. And that is item 7, adoption of the February 19th, 2025 board meeting minutes. And members, would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I would so move, but I have a question too.
Okay, go ahead. Should we seek a second, or you want to wait? Okay, we have a second with Vice Chair Lieber. And the question?
Yes, under public comments not on the agenda, we observed that the board received public comments from Palmer Luckey. It appears like maybe he attended the meeting, but he attended by telephone. Do we ever indicate whether the comments are made personally or are made by phone? Is that ever officially of any record?
I think we're going to get a response here. Yeah, Executive Director
Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. It has not been our policy to indicate whether or not an individual make public comments by telephone or in person.
So if somebody would call in and say, was Mr. Luckey really there? There would be no record. Nobody would, unless they talked to somebody who remembered it, huh?
Well, in our minutes, we don't reflect whether it was in person or virtual or by telephone. But I'm sure if someone was to call my office or board proceedings and ask if that person was in person or was that person by telephone, we'd be able to respond.
Okay.
Our meetings, our recorded meetings are
Our meetings are
archives,
also
aren't
always
they?
streamed, yes.
So you could always go back to that meeting.
Yes, yes. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful, good question. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Member Schaefer's made a motion to approve the February 19th, 2025 board meeting minutes with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
I think we need to go out to the AT&T moderator on this first.
Yes, thank you.
And-
So let me
Press
just go
1 then
through.
0.
Yeah.
All right, let me go through the script here, just to make
Yeah,
sure that we
he's
clarify
fine.
in the audience here too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And we do not have any written comments on this item. No one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda. Thank you, moderator.
And please press 1 then 0 for public comment at this time. 1 followed by 0. And we have no public comment at this time.
Thank you. And we'll now move to the motion. Member Schaefer's made a motion to approve the February 19th, 2025 board meeting minutes with Member Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. Now move on to the next item, which is board member matters, item 8, the 2025 board meeting calendar revision. Mr. Vasquez is presenting this item.
Thank you, Member Chair Gaines. Members, I have a scheduling conflict coming up on our July 23rd board meeting, and I was asked, and I'm proposing if it's possible to move that to the following week, which would be July 29th. If that's a possibility, I would like to move that, but I put it out there in case there's a conflict with others as well.
Member Schaefer, please.
Member Vasquez, I don't think this is appropriate at this time. First of all, it's brought forward 4 months before the event. We could easily address this in April or in May or maybe in June. We have no idea what the basis is for it. I mean, it could be that you have an appointment with your barber. I mean, I don't know how serious is the conflict. I would like to point out that you, like myself, can appear virtually, as I did one time when I had a little health issue. I'm just really surprised to see this on here, and I can't support it unless you can justify why whatever you're going to do is a greater priority than what we do, and why you can't appear virtually.
If I could just weigh in, because this was raised earlier.
I was.
And so I'm hoping that your staff was reached out to and you were made aware of, because my staff did speak to me about it, and I've already adjusted my calendar for the new meeting date. And so I appreciate the heads up. It's pretty early. I mean, it is a ways out before the meeting occurs. So I just wanted to make that comment because there had been discussion prior to this meeting here.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I was trying to give you as much notice as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, rather than give you like the month before, because I know all of us have busy schedules and you might have other commitments. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention as soon as possible. And Chair Gaines is correct. I did raise it before, but I didn't realize I had to agendize it. And I think our ED is checked on the locale, but I'll let her speak to that.
Yvette Stowers,
Or
Executive
the
Director.
availability, I guess.
Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. The conflict in the scheduling date for July 23rd was brought to my office attention last month. I did speak with Chairman Gaines and his staff to see if he was open to having the meetings rescheduled to July 29th. I also did check to confirm that this auditorium is available on July 29th, and it is available. Rescheduling it to the 29th, this is timely enough because this facility does fill up very quickly. So if we were to wait till May or June to try to reschedule the July meeting, there's a strong possibility that this facility would not be available. With respect to the members' conflict on why the 23rd does not work for him, I leave that to the member to discuss with his peers.
Well, my staff was not aware of the reason, at least in the memorandum I have from Dr. Pedersen, and he
Okay.
did not go into any specifics. and
Okay, I
regret-
apologize, because I know that our office was contacted, so I wasn't aware that other members weren't contacted, but I think we've got plenty of time here to make a
Right.
decision, so.
In order to avoid violation of Bagley-King, since I knew this was going to require a board vote, I only contacted the chair's office.
Okay,
I'd like
thank
to
you.
disagree with you on that. I don't think the public has a right to a seat at the table on an issue such as when we hold our meetings, or what day we meet, what time we meet. That's all in-house matters, and I'm sure if it ever went into court, they would say, of course, that's an in-house housekeeping matter and not anything that affects the substance of what you do.
Duty noted.
Well, members, if it's appropriate, I'd like to move the proposal to move our July 23rd meeting of 2025 to July 29th of 2025.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Second.
second. All right.
I still don't know why we're having to, what the reason is.
I have a conflict.
I know, but I want to know more about the conflict.
Yeah, I don't, I really don't care what the rationale is, as long as it works with our schedules. That's my personal opinion, but.
My personal
that-
opinion is that upsets Stowers and checking to see if the meeting is available on that date. And, there's a dozen different people that are involved in it, and I don't think things like this ought to be brought before us 4 months in advance when you can do it in a couple of months. And I would not bring anything like this on the agenda at all, but if I did, I most certainly would explain the reason, unless it's embarrassing if you're having surgery or, stuff like that, that's personal. I don't want to bring that before the board necessarily, but since my staff has not briefed me on it, you should have caught me before the meeting and said, hey, my wife and I are going to.
I can't believe we're having this
bar mitzvah or
conversation.
something like that. I mean, you should give me some way.
I
to
feel like we're in
understand it.
elementary school.
Okay. Member Schaefer, are you done with your comments? 'Cause
Yes,
they're-
thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Chair Lieber, like, comment?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry.
Decidedly not. I have no
Okay.
comments.
All right, and Controller Emron.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. I'm seeing both sides of the comment, and moving forward, if we do have scheduling change requests, can we have it noticed and agendized in a little bit more of a formal fashion? I understand your concerns too. We do have a quorum without Mr. Vasquez, and we work at a certain time to make sure that the calendar is set. So definitely
We're
need
gonna
to
get
look into this process a little
Yes.
bit more, please.
Get a little legal advice
Hi.
here.
Julia Himovitz on behalf of the legal department. If I could just comment on a couple of items here. This is the formal way to bring this forward, was to put it on the agenda as it's been done. It did go through the chair's office, as is our policy and process. In terms of whether this is an item subject to Bagley-Keene, in terms of notice, to Mr. Schaefer's point, I would say that housekeeping matters typically don't need to be discussed as formally under Bagley-Keene. You are correct in that regard. However, what I would point out is Bagley-Keene exists to allow the public to have a seat at the table. This scheduling conflict would perhaps prevent someone from either attending or not attending. Therefore, it's appropriate to be agendized in this way.
My point, thank you, Member Schaefer. My point is, if this is a July request, Mr. Schaefer's asking, like, there should be a window within 60 days or 90 days that a request should be in. So if it's the March meeting now, and if I wanted to change September, I can bring that up at the next meeting, or I can bring something out 8, 9 months in advance to flip the dates. Does that make sense? Like, is there a window if you want to change the schedule in March for the May meeting? You're within the 60-day time frame. But if I want to do March to December, it's a little bit of a stretch, yeah?
So I think CDTFA is really kind in allowing us to use their space. And so the more notice that we can give everybody, I would imagine, is better. But in terms of a formal policy as to when you put in the request for what amount of time, I can't speak to that. I think it is a ways out, but
Just examining the bylaws when it comes up at the appropriate time. Thank you.
okay.
It's something you might want to bring up during our governance maybe next time, yeah. I didn't see it written in there, that's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good idea. There may be members of the public that are planning to appear on a matter that is set for the meeting as set, and, if we did a change, that might disrupt them. I'd like to point out that none of us are indispensable. We only need 3 of us of the 5 of us, so any 2 of us could be hit by a car or be sick or have a scheduling conflict and just not show up, and we can also show up, as I've done, virtually. I just don't think this item has any business cluttering our docket, is what I'm trying to say. And if you do want to bring it on the docket in the future, I would ask that you favor me personally with a email or phone call, or catch me if you can. I just don't like to be surprised. Thank you.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you, Member Schaefer, and Vice Chair Lieber, you.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm pointing this out, but I just wanted to point out that there won't be people expecting to come on July 23rd because their matter is up then, because they don't know that their matter is up in 4 months from now, at which meeting. By and large, there may be some person who's counting on it somewhere. This is California, so there's got to be at least one of everything. But I think that given 4 months' notice, people can make their travel plans and arrive in a nice fashion.
Wonderful. Great. Are we, have we concluded discussion?
Well, I still don't know why, maybe I didn't hear if it was given, or are we just not?
You can vote against it, that's your right.
Pardon
Just
me?
vote against it. Vote against it if you have a problem with it, that's all.
It's okay if I vote against it?
It's your prerogative.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
But
So
I
we-
might vote for it if I knew what it was.
Well, we have a motion. We have, Member Vasquez has made a motion to change the July 23rd, 2025 meeting date to July 29th, 2025, with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Chigetti, could you please call the roll?
I believe we need to go to the moderator. I'm going to intervene on here and say, AT&T
okay.
moderator, could you let us know if there's anyone on the
Thank
line
you.
who'd like to
Yeah.
make a public comment on item number 8?
If you would like to make a comment, please press 1 then 0. And at this time, there is no one in queue.
Thank you. I'm going to call the roll.
Right, thank
Chairman
you.
Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
No.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Next item is Board Member Matters, item number 9, the 2025 Wildfire Disaster Relief and Recovery Legislation and Other Solutions Informational Hearing Summary Report. Mr. Vasquez is presenting this item.
Thank you, Chair Gaines. Members, first of all, I wanted to thank you and all my colleagues up here for the robust participation during our 25 Wildfire Disaster Relief and Recovery Legislation and Other Solutions Informational Hearing. I was very impressed with the knowledge and commitment of the speakers that we had during that hearing. Mr. Jerry House, Director of Operations for District Appraisals, and Mr. Lawrence Liu, Special Assistant Legislation and Advocacy, provided an excellent overview of the actions that the Los Angeles County Assessor Jeff Prang has taken in order to assist victims of the wildfires and legislation he is supporting, and also recommends the board's support for in order to resolve some existing roadblocks to providing relief. We were privileged to receive input on legislation bills that address the wildfires impacts from Senator Sasha Renee Bettis and Senator Ben Allen, both of whom encouraged the board's input and support on these legislative efforts. In addition, my Santa Monica Mayor, Lana Negrete, provided detailed input on how the wildfires impacted the city of Santa Monica. Even though it escaped the actual fire, there was financial impacts to the business community in that city. It would be helpful in finding solutions and options moving forward. Although minutes and reports are not required for an informational hearing, I submitted them to you for discussion and approval for several reasons. One, I want to have an official summary documenting at least the highlights of the input we received so that we and future boards have a record. Two, I'd like to send them to the speakers and their respective organizations and constituencies for their records and future contacts. And three, I'd like the public to understand the results of the hearing, the varied challenges and impacts of the wildfires present, and how the BOE and the Los Angeles County assessors can assist in the relief and recovery efforts. After your comments and input, I'd like to move for adoption these recommendations and the discussion that came out of it. And with that, let me just turn to my colleagues, and if there's any comments, questions, suggestions, or any edits that you want to make, I'd love to hear them before I present a motion to the board.
Wonderful. Vice Chair Lieber?
Thank you. I just have one small one, and I'll be very brief because I noted that Senator Archuleta is here to present. But I just wanted to request that when you move adoption, you move it as the report and not minutes, because minutes imply that there's a work group attached to it. And so just for clarity, if we adopt it as a report. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Other comments? Yeah, Deputy Controller Emmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wonderful hearing. I thought it was really good substantive information, especially trying to expedite the recovery process in Los Angeles and making sure that residents feel safe. I have similar comments to Member Lieber. Informational hearings have become a new phenomenon here at the Board of Equalization. And sometimes we have an informational hearing and there's minutes presented, sometimes we don't. We have future informational hearings coming up. Are those going to be minutes presented? Or are they going to be a report out? So the controller also has some concerns about how we're going to move forward when we have an informational presentation. Is there going to be a required report out? Is there going to be required minutes? Or are we just going to leave it as is when we conclude that? And I think that's something that we all should look into in the future, having a protocol when we have informational hearings, because we have very assured process when it comes to board work groups, but not necessarily when it comes to informational hearings. And we're going to continue these. I am, and the controller is fully supportive of informational hearings, but what does the after the fact look like? Are we going to have required reports and minutes? And is the board going to vote to approve it? Is it ceremonial? Is it going to be inputted somewhere? Is it going to be on the website? Is it going to be sent to the legislators and the governor's office? So that's something to think about for now. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Member Schaefer.
Well, I realize that Member Vasquez that's his district where all this horrible stuff is going on, and I appreciate very much all of his vigilance in bringing these matters to the board.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I think we can discuss this further, because I think you raise a good point, Deputy Controller, in terms of, what is the purpose of the informational hearing, and then what is the next step? And I guess from my perspective, it doesn't have to be a next step, but the fact that you're wanting a summary report, I think is valuable, and so we ought to go ahead and continue along that vein. I'm not trying to get off the reservation, am I okay?
Oh, no, sir. Very good points from all sides. Member Vasquez and his team has taken the added step of doing a report in minutes following the board work group charter. However, the informational hearing process does not require the member to do reports or minutes. It's up to this body if you guys would like to implement such a change. You guys normally look at your board governance in November and make the changes in December. But as Deputy Controller Imran identified, we do have informational hearings coming up throughout the year. So it would be within your privy if you would like to amend your policy, let's say next month, to require some type of report that would totally be within the members' rights.
Okay. All right, very good.
It's separate from a board work group, correct? So you
Yeah,
have a
it
board
would
work
be
group?
separate. It would be informational hearing, board work group. Informational hearing is generally fact gathering to see if there is something emerging that the board needs to take action on. And generally speaking, we can go from an informational hearing based on that fact gathering to a board work group to resolve the issue.
So would this be an agendized item? For the
Yes,
future
we will agendize on the April agenda to, oh, no, doesn't look like it. It's a 2-day meeting and it's a full calendar.
Okay.
So we will agendize it for the May meeting to look at the board's governance policy on informational hearings.
Great. Vice Chair Lieber? That's a question.
And so we already have a functional policy in place that if it's a board work group meeting, then minutes are produced. And if it's an informational hearing that doesn't have a work group attached to it, then there's just a report with no minutes. And so that's not correct? What,
For informational hearings, there's no requirement for minutes or a report.
okay,
For a board work group, there's a requirement for minutes and reports. For both, whether it's an informational hearing or a board work group, the board member who is sponsoring the informational hearing or the board work group is responsible for those items. It is a product driven by the board member and the board member's staff.
Okay.
okay. So it seems like we have a policy in place that's been at least our custom and practice, if it's not in the governance policy. So we're okay for now. But we could bring it back in the governance policy to require a report on the informational hearings that are not part of a work group. And I'd like to suggest that we just consider requiring a report, because as we know from our discussions, minutes can be fraught with, I didn't say that, or he didn't say that, or something. And so I think that the report, gives a little bit of a refresher. So if we could have that come back under our governance when time allows.
Mr. Chairman, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Member Lieber. I appreciate your comments. And the reason I say this is because when the participants are coming forward for informational hearing, are they even aware that there's going to be a report or their testimony is being logged? And that's kind of my concern. So, and then moving forward too, in your report or in May, if you can give us an idea of what BOE 1.0 did around informational hearings, even if there was informational hearings or anything like that, kind of looking at the history of it so we can help formulate our plan moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, so let me see. Thank you, Deputy Controller Imran. So you're asking for this to be agendized for May and to provide a summary of what old BOE did when it came to informational hearings. Vice Chair Lieber is asking that we just continue status quo with the option of the sponsoring member providing a report, but not minutes, and then we address this when we update our governance policy.
But if we're in status quo, then this report shouldn't even be coming to the board if it's an informational hearing. If there's no custom to have a report or minutes for an informational hearing, then this shouldn't even be an item.
Actually, we've done this in the past. Member Vasquez, last informational hearing, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was, but he did present a report in minutes, and the board did review and adopt it. Member Vasquez, do you remember?
The housing, when we did the housing, I did the review.
Affordable housing, there was a report in minutes, but I thought there was a more recent.
Energy?
Oh, and then we did the energy one.
The energy
hydrogen.
one, just this year, the energy one.
We also had an insurance hearing.
Right,
We
that's
did.
why I said we're not consistent. I'm just saying, Member Vasquez and his team has taken the initiative to do minutes and reports. It's not a requirement, but they have done it consistently.
And I'm open, if you want, I think it should be open to the members, it's up to you. I don't want to put something on you if you're not comfortable doing it. I just thought it would be good to document it and have it, not only for us, but for the participants that participated in talking to the legislators, because some of them couldn't hear all the testimony, so they kind of wanted to hear, they wanted a report of some sort. And I said, well, we could put something together and share it with them as well.
I agree with you, Mr. Vasquez, and I think it's a good idea. I just want, and the controller, also just a board protocol for every member. So if I bring an informational hearing, I know exactly how it's going to happen, how to organize it, and then after the fact, I'm supposed to put together a report that's adopted by the board. Or else we're just doing it piece by piece, and it becomes a little dysfunctional.
Okay. Why don't I do this for the May agenda? We will agendize this. I would look at suggestions on how it could be done, and this body can take a vote on what they would like to do.
Because my understanding, this is an official board informational hearing, so this is on behalf of the entire board, not just one member.
It is. The board voted for the informational hearing, so it represents the entire board.
Okay, thank you.
But even if we provide clarity, we can still have flexibility,
Yes.
right? So, but I think it's a point well raised.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yes, Vice Chair Lieber.
One final comment. I actually have found the reports to be very useful and helpful. I've saved them and referred back to them on the housing hearing that we had and on the other hearings, the insurance hearing, and et cetera. And I may just be a policy geek, but I do save those reports and continue to go through them. What are less useful to me would be minutes. So thank you.
Okay. So are we in agreement that we're going to?
Yes, we will put it on the agenda for May.
This for future meetings?
I would do some research on what the prior BOE did when it came to informational hearings. And then I would provide some options for this board to make a decision on, option 1, option 2, option 3.
Wonderful.
Okay,
That's great.
thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director. Okay, so any further discussion? I think,
So-
are we wrapped?
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, I'll just make clear. So the motion I'm making is not the minutes, but the report.
Yes.
And then leave it at that.
Yes.
And the reason I want to put it out there is actually as a result of, I guess, I don't know if they were minutes or reports, or it might have been a combination of two when we did the affordable housing. A little bit later, we're going to hear from one of our legislators that actually took some of that information and actually created some legislation that we're going to hear about a little bit later. So I'll just move that we approve the report as from the informational hearing. And if there's a second, we'll go ahead and share it with the other participants.
Okay, great, wonderful. So we have a motion and a second. Thank you. Public comment on item number 9. We do not have any written comments on this item, nor is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. Please press 1 then 0 for public comment at this time. 1 then 0. And we have no public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Members, we have a motion. Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve the minutes and.
No, report.
Excuse me, report. After all that discussion. Okay, to approve the report from the February 19th, 2025 meeting, and Vice Chair Lieber has seconded. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines.
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Abstain.
Okay. All right, the motion passes. I think at this point, members, could we agree to a 10-minute break?
We have,
We could do so.
We
Is-
can.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
we're fine.
Okay,
That
very
would be
good.
fine.
Senator Archuleta, please come forward. Yeah, thanks for being here, we appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. No,
Well,
I
before-
appreciate your time, and
Before we
I know
start,
you've been
Senator
at it all
Archuleta.
morning, and to take a 10-minute break means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I'm sitting up there and we're waiting.
We have to do some, a little administrative work first.
Okay.
If
Gotta
we
go through
could,
a procedure, sorry.
The item that he's speaking on is item number 12.
Okay,
If we want to announce that first.
yes, I will do so, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, so, board member matters, this is item number 12, Senate Bill 296, Senator Archuleta, property taxation and exemption for disabled veteran homeowners. And thank you, Mr. Vasquez, for bringing the senator here. And would you like to make any introductory comments first?
Just real quickly, one, thank you, Senator, because I know you folks on the Hill right now are working on several bills and committee meetings, just trying to be respectful of your time. So I appreciate you coming out and looking forward to your presentation. I know you've done quite a bit of work to help these veterans, homeowners, and here we are with another bill. So looking forward to it, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Great, yes, please.
Mr.
Senator.
Chair and board members, thank you. Again, I'm Senator Bob Archuleta, and I'm just so honored to speak to you and present the property tax exemptions. And we're talking about Senate Bill 296 and SEA 4, and along with Senate Bill 623. This legislative session, I introduced two bills and one state constitutional amendment to expand the disabled veterans property tax exemption. And it is so important. I just presented it, one of the bills just a few minutes ago, and it was well received. Everyone in the audience, all the boards, every committee in the Senate Assembly, everybody is there for our veterans, and I appreciate the fact that your spirit is also here as well. And everybody in this room that knows about property tax and has heard about property tax, and there are always issues, but to our veterans, it really hits home, especially those that are buying a home or trying to buy a home because it's so important to them. There will probably be some in this room who, like me, served our country and who signed up and signed the dotted line and swore an oath to protect and defend the United States of America. Well, those of us who have and those that did, I will tell you, a lot of them didn't come home like they would have loved to have come home. Sound minds, sound bodies, because some of them have actually had some problems with PTSD, others with loss of limbs and God knows what else. But to all those veterans who served, and those 100% disabled veterans, I present this bill. The main two criteria for a person as a veteran, as you know, is to have served honorably in the United States Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and of course our Space Force. And anyone who served in those branches and received a discharge other than dishonorable, with an honorable discharge, they're afforded the opportunity to be buried at Arlington and receive VA benefits. So it's something very sacred to take it to the next level here in California to make sure we honor them. The people who will qualify for these property tax exemptions that we talk about, who served our country, not only in combat, but so many who served at wartime and even in peacetime. But maybe they've served in on one of our 44 military installations here in California, also home to the first and oldest veterans home in the nation to care for our aging veterans. And people don't think about our veterans homes that we have run by CalVet. And it's something that if you ever get a chance to visit one of our veterans homes, please do that. So housing affordability still remains a significant concern for our veterans, with nearly 35% of veterans paying more than 30% of their income for housing. And it's not just the veterans, but of course it's across the state. There are over 11,000 veterans experiencing homelessness here in California, the highest percentage of any other state. And that's because we've had the highest numbers for so very long. Disabled veterans want to live in the wonderful world of joy and happiness and the beautiful sunshine we see today, and of course in our wonderful state of California. But they too are feeling the squeeze and the current economic conditions. Home ownership is so difficult, and we're trying to help as much as we can. So I introduced these measures because I believe we must do more to ensure our veterans can afford to live in California while also striving to end veterans' homelessness. And it's something we're all doing together, and the governor is right there with us on all this as well. So Senate Bill 296 completely exempts disabled veterans from property tax, 100% disabled veterans. This includes veterans who are either rated 100% with the VA or who are blind in both eyes or have lost one or more limbs. This bill also offers the tax exemption to the unmarried surviving spouse of a qualifying deceased veteran after he's gone. That exemption will continue with the wife. or the spouse. A full disabled veteran property tax exemption is a courtesy provided in numerous states, including Texas, which recently surpassed California, because we were number one, now we're not, to become the state with the largest veterans population. And people wonder about that. It's because some of our veterans at retirement are leaving the state because we tax their pension. So they go on to other states where they're not taxed. People don't realize that you could retire from the military at 38 to 42, even 45 years of age. That's a long span of time where you're being productive, making money. I just talked to someone who has a relative who retired from the Navy, was a submarine officer, and at 44 years of age, with that experience, they're thinking of taking it out to Florida. And I just talked to him. I said, hold off. California's we're still working on that. But this is what we're faced with. And anyway, as I mentioned, Senate Bill 296 will exempt the veterans who are 100% disabled. A full disabled veteran property tax exemption is a courtesy, and we should extend it to all the veterans that we can possibly can. But the 100% disabled veteran, that's what we're trying to take care of. And Senate Bill 623 and SCR 4 seeks to allow an eligible property owner who qualifies for the veterans exemption to also receive the homeowner's exemption. Just to share with you, a civilian has a $7,000 property exemption. A veteran only has $4,000. Wait a minute, what's wrong with that? The veteran at 4, the civilian at 7? Well, this bill will combine it. It will combine it so the veteran will get both sides of the aisle on that. And speaking of the sides of the aisle, these bills are combined together. This is not for veterans who are Democrat, Republican, Independent. This is for the veterans who served our country. So, as I had mentioned, that a veteran who owns a property and occupies that property as his primary residence, that's the requirement, is eligible for the property tax exemption, known as the veteran's exemption, will provide for, as I mentioned, $4,000 reduction in the taxable value of the property. Only $4,000. However, the civilian, as I mentioned, his exemption is nearly twice that. And that exemption exists in law, but it does not permit the veteran to receive it. So now, as I mentioned, bringing them together, that's our goal. And that the data indicates that not a single veteran in California has applied for the veterans exemption because it's only $4,000. What did we do wrong? Why didn't we listen to that years and years and years ago? Well, now it's our time to make history. The data is there, so the proof is there. So SCA 4 and Senate Bill 623 would allow the veteran homeowners to use both the veterans homeowners exemption combined. As I stated, these men and women dedicate their lives to serve our country. We now must step up and help them. We must do more to ensure our veterans can afford to live in California, and it is my hope that Senate Bill 296, Senate Bill 623, and SCA 4 will pass the legislature to give the veterans as much needed tax relief during this tough economic times as possible. So with your help, your dedication, and the work you've done in the past will continue. So I'm hoping that I can receive your support and votes in the future to help our veterans. And with that, I am open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Senator Archuleta. And I did have a question because I just wanted to clarify on the, you'd have to be 100% disabled. Is that correct, in order to get the benefit? But the benefit would be a complete exemption?
It would, we're shooting for that, yes.
Okay.
And again, also to combine the two that we talked about, the
Yes.
4,000 and the 7. So imagine if a veteran owns his home, and he's fortunate enough to, whether he's disabled or not, he can apply for the 7.
Yeah.
But only the 100% is the one we're talking about, full exemption.
Okay.
And that's the thing. So we're giving recognition to the 100% disabled.
Yes.
As we should.
So that would be no property tax?
Yeah, no
Yes,
property tax.
okay.
So, but again, all the veterans in general, can apply for the 4 and the 7.
Yes.
But only this 100% can apply for no tax at all.
Okay, and are both of those included in your bill?
Yes.
Both of those features?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but one of them, remember, it's got to go before the voters. The others can go before the Senate and the Assembly and eventually the governor.
Okay.
That's why one of them is referred to as SCA 4.
4, okay.
And that's why. But if it's all done, then we've accomplished what we need to do, taking care of our veterans with the exemption, and especially the 100% veterans.
Yes.
That are disabled.
Wonderful. I'm sure there's other comments and questions. Please, Vice Chair Lieber. And then-
Thank you. I want to very much thank you for taking on this effort. This has been something that has really affected people in our state, and especially our veterans who have given all and have 100% disability that is service-related. And I just had a question. SB 623 you mentioned. What does that one do?
Each bill is separate, but
Right.
but in the same family, under the same umbrella. And so rather than get stuck on numbers, it's to get stuck on the entire umbrella. And as I mentioned, one of the bills that the County of Los Angeles, the County of San Francisco, San Diego, and so on, they've weighed in. I just talked to them, and they were our expert speakers when I presented it. So the assessors are with all of this all together. And it's amazing that whether it be San Bernardino County, what I just met with, San Francisco County, LA County, the assessors, we had to get through them first, right?
Okay.
And once we got to them, then we had to get to our bill, to my committee, which is the Military and Veterans Committee. So after we finish here, within the next week or so, it'll come before me again. And then it's already, then we go through the Assembly.
Okay.
But again, our goal is to make sure that a veteran can apply for the exemption, the 700, the 7,000 and the 4, which he already has, and combine them. The other one, of course, is the 100% disabled veteran, which he would not pay the property tax.
Okay, so the ability to stack those is in
That's a good
623.
word. Stack, yes. I like
Yeah.
that term.
Okay, great. And then the other thing that I just wanted to, make a mental note of, and that I don't know in your travels of putting the bill together, if you've had the conversation with folks about service upgrades. And so if someone had a bad conduct discharge due to a mental illness or due to a situation of racism within the particular armed force that they served in, and later they sought help from some of our very valued veterans organizations in getting their discharge upgraded, would they still be eligible for this? And I'm
Yes.
assuming that because it changes their record fully, that they would be able to access this.
If I may elaborate a little bit
Please.
for the civilians that are in the room and perhaps the rest of the committee, when one is discharged under honorable conditions, and they have various categories when you're discharged. As an example, the bottom of the barrel would be a dishonorable discharge, bad conduct, something tragically happened. Then you go up the ladder and you work your way up to, say, a general discharge. And then, of course, then you have the honorable discharge. And the general discharge is something that would be where one of our veterans came back from a deployment, and he was still hadn't been diagnosed yet, and he has brain trauma, right? And then he goes off on his sergeant, or goes off on his superior officer, whatever, and then he's reprimanded, and then eventually he's discharged under general conditions. They didn't get a chance. He didn't get a chance, or she, to explain what was going on. And then, as you say, that then he is examined at the VA, because he's still eligible for VA benefits and medical treatment. Then they discover he had brain trauma because of an explosion. So now he petitions, and there's a process for an upgrade, as you mentioned, and that's called upgrading to the next level, which would be honorable discharge. So, but some aspects of the general discharge would already work for him, but down below it wouldn't. That's a little more difficult. But getting the full benefits from the general to the honorable, yes, that's a process. And it's happened more and more as we discovered racial issues, because of one versus the other, and personnel things, medical things have happened, just service, and so there is the process. And I'm so glad that the VA will sit and listen with a panel like this, and the veteran will present himself. And sometimes it's through the congressional office, sometimes it's through our offices in the Military and Veterans Committee, but someone who's speaking on behalf of the veteran and reopen the circumstances, the case, and then they reevaluate. So yes, and I don't mean to make a long story, but you brought out a good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Member Schaefer.
Senator, you mentioned the $7,000 exemption. That's been around for a long time. Do you know when that was set? Wasn't that back in the days when you could buy a home for $25,000?
Well, I will tell you, I bought my first home for $21,000 when I got out of the service. $21,000, am I correct? Yes, $21,000. I think it was, $210,000. What am I saying? $210,000. $210,000. And not knowing about the VA benefits. See, that's another issue, madam, because a lot of the veterans come out and they're not counseled and taught and trained to look for these and ask for these things. So if the exemption was there, it still wouldn't have done any good. As a veteran myself, I served with the 82nd Airborne. I'm a combat veteran, and I'd never asked about it. Back then, didn't know about it. So I would have probably, like my neighbors, would have filed for the exemption, the $7,000 exemption, not the $4,000. So that's what we're doing now. So I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know exactly when it started, but I know it was like this, where it started with the panel, the county, the assessors, and the Board of Equalization, right up the ladder until it was established. And now it's there, but it hasn't touched our veterans in any way, shape, or form all these years.
Well, it's not that meaningful. It's like $70 a year. It should be brought into the year 2025.
Yeah.
I see you were mayor of Pico Rivera.
I was.
I used to visit there twice every weekend when the Amtrak stopped there. They don't anymore.
Oh, and visit the Del Rey restaurant, I hope, right? But mentioning Pico Rivera, that's a small community. And when the veterans were discharged from the Army in all the branches, they settled in our local areas because of the work. And homes were being built. And they were being built under the VA and with zero down, zero payment as far as cost escrow. And that's how they filled up our communities. And to this day, a lot of the families are still there from World War II and Korea and the Vietnam era. They're still there. Now the kids are taking over. And if they didn't file the exemptions, then the kids today don't have it because it's only the surviving spouse, right? So we've investigated and thoroughly looked at all of this to make sure we help the veterans and only the veterans.
I think you're speaking to the choir here because we're all very much in favor of the veterans.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, great. If we could now move to Deputy Controller Emron with comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you too, Senator, for your support, your service, and for always looking out for veterans. The Controller's father is a Vietnam veteran, disabled veteran.
Welcome home, tell him.
Appreciate that.
When you
Thank
see him, you say, welcome home.
Appreciate that, and he's done incredible things for this country. He's back in his community as a pastor, doing great work. So, Senator, this is the first time I'm really hearing about this bill, still trying to gather information, and it's not necessarily anything towards yourself or the work that you're doing, but the board itself, and I'm gonna look to the members and speak about the Controller's concerns earlier about how we analyze these bills as it goes through and it comes before the board. And her proposal is a legislative committee for the Board of Equalization to have, but we're not privy to the conversations happening at the Capitol, Senator. We do have a legislative director here, and the idea of a committee is to form this committee and have to hear opposition, to hear proponents of the bill, to do a fiscal analysis, to do a thorough review and research, and this committee come back before the board to give a formal recommendation. And I think that's something that I believe is standard protocol as we go through this process. So, Senator, I'm going to abstain today, not, of course, because of the work you're doing, but more of the board protocol today. Thank you so much.
Good, thank you. And I would like to say that when I presented my bill earlier, we had members of all these various counties, that the county assessors and so on. And when the question was asked, all those who support the bill, they lined up. And then all those who oppose it, it was silent. And I'm hoping that we'll accomplish the same thing there in the future.
Wonderful. Okay, comments of Vice Chair Lieber and then Vasquez and then.
One last comment. I would just say that in terms of the background on the bill, I was able to download the Senate rev and tax analysis and the text of the bill. So I have the revenue impact, but that would be good if we could include that in the future. There are some of the bills up today that only the text of the bill was available, but for this one, I do have the revenue impact, and so I'm comfortable having read the bill and read the analysis that I'm well prepared to vote. Thank you.
Member Vasquez.
Thank you. And I think you're raising a good point from the Controller's Office, on the whole financial impact. And just for your information, Senator, you mentioned several other bills, but the only one that was agendized today at this meeting is SB 296. So that's the only one that we really, if we choose to take action on. The others, they can be brought forward. And I think it's a good suggestion. I know some of us had the opportunity to look into the financial impact, but we could definitely attach it to any other bills that come forward so people at least have that information moving forward. I personally, anything that I think we do so little for the veterans, even the financial impact this might have, to me, I think offsets it, especially when you're talking about veterans that are leaving, which means we're losing that tax base, sales tax that they're providing, to the state as it is, and any investments that they make here.
Well,
So-
and I might add, if I may, Mr. Chair, that I have two sons that have graduated from West Point, and they're West Point graduates. They're still in the military. So I believe I'm the only senator in America that has two sons that are West Point graduates that are still serving. And they've got maybe 6 years left, because one's a major and the other one's a lieutenant colonel. So the lieutenant colonel will probably give us 6 more years, and then hopefully he'll come back to California, right, and continue raising my 2 grandkids that are 6 years old and start his life. Now you can imagine, he's a PhD, a former professor at West Point and Georgetown, right? Imagine his income that he'll have in his lifetime, because he'll be about 43 or 44 when he retires. The other son has a master's out of Yale and a master's out of Harvard. And imagine with those credentials, when he retires at 42 or 43, what he's going to contribute financially in his work. But imagine if those two were taken out because they decided to go to Florida or Texas or somewhere. And that's what we're trying to say. So giving those veterans, and that'll come for you down the road, because that's the pensions we're talking about. But right now, of course, it's just our disabled veterans. But as you mentioned, stacking them. These are issues that are going to be stacked. And it is our time, your time, and your father's time that you're actually able to do something. And we are going to make history, and it's long overdue. So your support and your vote is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Senator Archuleta. I appreciate it.
I'll move motion to support SB 296.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If we could, I would like to have some further discussion. And if we could have Ted Angelo, if you could please come forward. I'd like to talk a little bit, if we could, about the process in terms of how we're going to weigh in on bills.
Thank you, Yvette Starks, Executive Director. Although I have all the confidence in Mr. Angelo, I would recommend that we have this discussion later. But we have a motion already. Maybe we could hold off on voting on that motion. We have another senator office online for another bill.
Okay.
So if we could just not vote on the current bill, have the senator speak on his bill, and then we can take a lunch break, and then I can address, myself and legal can address some concerns that have been raised with respect to analysis of bills, Ledge Committee, and Mr. Angelo's role.
Okay, very well. Yeah, please, go ahead, Mr. Vasquez.
The only objection I would have to that is that the other bill that's coming forward, I don't think it doesn't conflict with this one. It's not like it's an opposing bill. So to hold it off, I think, doesn't do us any good. It's not like it's going to serve us well.
Exactly. It's not I wasn't saying hold off because of the upcoming bill. I was trying to address Mr. Chairman Gaines' concerns on the process and the same concerns that Deputy Controller raised. And it seems like this current bill that you guys are discussing, it looks like there's support for your bill, sir.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, so,
Good.
that's the only reason I was
yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
Vice Chair
Yeah.
Lieber, yeah.
I'd like to suggest that if we're going to have a full discussion of the way that we examine bills, that we do that under an agendized item, so that we vote on this agendized item now, and then we put an item on a subsequent agenda to talk about possible Ledge Committee, the way that we analyze bills and et cetera, but we don't have that agendized for today.
Okay, I have my second assignment for the day.
I'm sorry, and it is your birthday, too.
Thank you. So I'd like further comment. Deputy Controller Emron, there's a suggestion here by Vice Chair Lieber to agendize the item for further discussion and see if we can formulate some sort of policy that we could use in the future.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I'll be in touch with you about how we should formulate that plan. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think we should go ahead and proceed. We're trying to do two things simultaneously, and we're kind of changing gears midstream. So why don't we go ahead? We've had a motion and a second, and let us go through the regular procedure here, and let's open it up for public comment on item 12. We don't have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item other than what we've heard from the senator. Thank you. And so let's go to the AT&T moderator, and please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And please press 1 then 0 for public comment at this time. And we have no public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Members, I think we've had our discussion. So Member Vasquez has made a motion for the board to support SB 296 with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
All righty. Chairman Gaines?
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Member Schaefer?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron?
Abstain.
Okay, all right. So the motion passes, and as discussed, we will look at an agendized item on how to address legislation in the future, and see if maybe we could formalize it so we have more information.
Good.
But
Thank
I
you,
want
Mr.
to thank
Chair.
you,
Member,
Senator
thank you.
Archuleta. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. That's a great question. Executive Director Stowers, do we have someone on the line?
We do have,
We do have someone on the line.
Are we okay not taking?
we do, yes,
the
we're
break
fine
and
today.
hearing this?
Yes, we're okay.
Is that okay?
Ju-
Yes.
Just a
Member
quick,
Vasquez.
I just got a text from one of our assembly members, Mike Gibson, who's on the agenda and to testify at 1, and he said he would arrive at 12:30 if we could accommodate him, but I'm just trying to check your schedules here and see if that fits in.
Yeah.
He's scheduled for 1 o'clock. I don't think we're going to be able to accommodate him for 12:30 PM because it's 11:52, and we have an item that we're going to take up right now, and then we'll be taking our 1-hour lunch.
I believe we have one of your other speakers that you have slated on the line.
Okay.
You're okay with that?
Well, I'll let him know, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so.
Because he's scheduled to be at 1, so he's still on at 1, is that what we're saying? Because that's what the agenda shows.
Well, somehow we have to fit a lunch in. So at some point, staff has to have a lunch.
That's what I'm trying to
Can't
figure
postpone
out,
it till 4
when,
o'clock.
when do we take the lunch, I
Okay,
guess?
we'll do our
Or how
best.
flexible are we with this?
We'll do our best to accommodate, but staff does have to have a lunch, so let's move to the next agenda item and
Yes.
see how quickly we can move forward.
Okay.
All
Very
righty.
good. Let's do that.
Okay.
Wonderful. This is item 13,
Yes.
Senate bill by Senator Sayarto, disabled veterans exemption, household income. And Mr. Vasquez is presenting this item. Please.
Thank you, Chair Gaines, and we have the honor and the pleasure of having another senator here on SB 56, Disabled Veterans Exemption. And as was mentioned earlier by member Senator Archuleta, these are not competing bills, but cover different aspects of the support and exemption for veterans. And now that I see him on the screen here, I just want to welcome Mr. Ciarto and give you the opportunity to present your bill. Welcome. And I think you might be muted. I can hear your voice, I can see your lips move, but no voice.
Still can't hear.
Still
you.
There
muted.
we go.
There we go.
Good.
All right. So thank you guys for having me today via this, because I'd rather be there in person, but I can't be two places at one time. So anyway, I'll try and get you guys out to lunch. And thank you for allowing me to present SB 56 to you. SB 56 addresses a critical flaw in the system that unfairly penalizes disabled veterans by counting their disability benefits as income when determining eligibility for the disabled veterans property tax exemption. Over the past 2 years, both California and the federal government have recognized this issue and taken steps to exclude disability benefits from household income calculations in housing programs. The problem is that veterans must be disabled to qualify for the tax exemption, yet their disability compensation is counted as income, pushing them over the income threshold and making them ineligible. This creates an unfair catch-22 that denies veterans the very support that's meant to help them. Veterans are encouraged to apply for disability benefits, yet receiving them can disqualify them from other critical support programs. Before AB 535 passed last year, a homeless veteran who secured state housing and connected to support programs could suddenly exceed the income threshold, leading to their eviction and a return to homelessness. Disability compensation is not a source of wealth, as it is recognition of service-related injuries, yet it is treated as income in a way that reduces access to essential tax relief. Last session, the legislature and Congress acted to remove disability income from governmental housing eligibility calculations. SB 56 extends that same principle to property tax relief. Under current law, veterans with a household income under $76,235 qualify for a higher property tax exemption through the low income exemptions of disabled veterans property tax exemption. To qualify, a veteran must be disabled, but the very disability compensation they have pushes them over that limit. So the Social Security Administration reports the average annual payment to Americans as of 2025 is currently $21,456. One disabled veteran with a spouse where both receive Social Security but no other income from anything would therefore not qualify since their income exceeds $76,000. This issue is only getting worse as inflation and cost of living increases. VA disability compensation also increases, which means that the requirement to qualify for the tax exemption counts against over half of a veteran's ability to qualify for the low income exemption, which is 64%. SB 56 solves this issue by removing VA payments for military connected disability benefits from the calculation of household income as it pertains to low income exemption for the disability disabled veterans property tax exemption, ensuring that veterans are not penalized for receiving the benefits they rightfully earn. So I'm hoping that you guys can support this measure. And if you have any questions, feel free, and myself or my staff member that is with me here, Nick Gauthier, can answer your questions.
Thank you for that detailed presentation. I just had one quick question, then I'll turn it to my colleagues, because I believe they might have some questions for you as well. Can you clarify for us as a basic example of how this would work? The current income limit for a low-income disabled veteran exemption is a little over $78,000 disability income, and the veteran has some, or excuse me, let's assume that there is a veteran who receives $40,000 per year in disability income, and the veteran has some small source of income like Social Security. Under current law, the $40,000 in disability income is counted towards the $78,000 limit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, let me turn it over. Looks like our chair, Gaines, might have a question for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Has there been any analysis on fiscal impact? Do you know how?
There's been some, yes, there has been some analysis on that.
Do you have any information that you could share with us?
Sure. So according to the Board of Equalization, we have about 79,851 veterans that claim the basic exemption, and 6,069 veterans claim the low income exemption across the state. So this translates into this. So as of 2025, the basic exemption excluded for the first 175,298, and the low income exemption excluded for the first 262,950 would be equate to about $134 a month savings for the basic exemption and $201 a month for the low income exemption.
Okay, all right. So is that about $70 a month in savings on property tax? Is that, am I thinking right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yes, okay. And do we know how many individuals would qualify for it?
Well, Nick, do you have any current information on how many people would be qualified for it, other than the amount of low-income exemptions across the entire state we've had?
Well, under current numbers, we have only 6,000 qualify for the low-income exemption. Current analysis, we have two competing analysis. One analysis is estimating that could grow to approximately 59,000 individuals. The competing analysis to that is actually trying to make an argument that it would only grow to be about 29,000. So there's kind of some competing analysis on that. It's basically trying to take into stats ratios of defining what is counted as income. A lot of surveys, a lot of studies on the veteran population when trying to develop their household income don't necessarily clarify, and count veteran compensation benefits. Most veterans actually don't consider that part of their household income because it's not taxable income. So if you're using AGI when they're filing their taxes, that won't be reflected. Their income won't show that. So if you're counting that type of measurement and then you're trying to deduct their basic compensation from the VA, then you're going to come up with a whole different number than someone who is maybe using the stats from the VA on labor and employment, which tends to focus more on who's working, who's not working. Anyone holding a job and being 100% disabled will definitely be disqualified from this threshold, making far more than 70,000. Anyone who isn't and is just on Social Security obviously would still be qualifying.
Yeah, okay.
Well, would hopefully qualify underneath this new threshold.
Yeah, but a sense of how many folks could stay within a home and not, my concern is, are there vets that could become homeless as a result of not getting this exemption? And then I guess another question would be, how many folks are moving out of the state where maybe the exemptions are more generous?
So So current numbers reflect that veterans are leaving the state by the tune of almost 4,000, 3,600-ish a year on average for the last 8 years.
Okay.
We're the only state that bleeds like that in the veteran population, both in survivors, people who still qualify to fall underneath this homeowner exemption, and the actual veteran themselves. All counts are showing around that number departing. No other state has that. And then and the states that do have full exemptions and or better benefits are gaining in lieu of. From all we have is rural indirect testimony from veterans. This bill came to the senator through our own district. A military disabled veteran, not retired from the military, just received injuries and disabled. Him and his wife only on Social Security, only on this disability, didn't qualify, and they don't know how they're going to hang on to their home.
Yeah.
And so instead of going homeless, they're looking to sell the home and leave the state. And that's what it's coming down to.
All right, thank you. Thanks for bringing this bill forward. I think it's critical we keep our veterans in California, and it's a difficult place to live because a lot of people want to live here and land's expensive. So I'm in support of your bill, and we are open to other discussion by members, but we have our executive director here. Please.
Good afternoon. Just listening to the comments and your questions regarding fiscal impact, and I'm assuming Deputy Controller will probably have a similar question. I would like to point out that on Friday, March 21st, we did provide the BOE bill analysis on this bill, and Mr. Ted Angelo is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, that's great.
Mr. Angelo?
Thank you.
So for the record, Ted Angelo with the Legislative Research and Statistics Division and Ledge Director. So I can answer any questions that you have. Unless you want.
Well, if you could.
Okay, so I
Could you
think-
add on to what we've already heard? 'Cause
I think
we've got some good testimony.
Yes, and everything that I've heard so far is relatively accurate in terms of the public policy, but the fiscal impact, and our property tax deputy could go into the details of how this shift might occur. But by removing the service-related payments from household income, you're going to have a shift from a number of individuals who would go and qualify for the low-income exemption. And that shift, based on our math that we've gone through quite a bit, and it's subject to review, of course, is approximately between $56 and $59 million in a decrease in revenue currently collected. So that's our fiscal impact right now. It was shared with the Revenue Tax Committee, which is a policy committee, but it's a fiscal policy committee before it goes to appropriations. So those numbers have been shared. We haven't changed that. There are questions on how that math is applied and how the shift occurs, but we vetted this pretty well, and so that's our fiscal on it.
Okay. But if those veterans move out of the state, there's also an economic impact to the economic impact they would have by living here, right? So they would be buying groceries, they'd be buying gasoline, they would be helping with the local employment of the community. So I'd imagine there's another number that we probably don't know, but certainly there's a number of, in terms of impact on the local economy of having someone
Right.
move out of the state.
And those issues are highlighted in the Senate revenue tax analysis.
Okay.
They're not something that we typically calculate because that's a broader scope than just talking about property tax administration.
Yeah.
So those are factors that from a public policy global perspective that you're going to take into account.
Yes.
But the point's well taken. It's just not part of our
Yes.
nuts and bolts of
Yeah, 'cause
changing the
you're
numbers.
focused on
Yes.
property. Right, we're
Yes.
focused on property here, but globally, there's an offset.
Right.
Okay. Great questions, yes. Deputy Controller Emmerich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Angelo, are you recommending support for this bill?
I can't take positions on legislation, and the agency doesn't. The board can. So that's the simplest way I can say it.
Thank you.
But I can say, personally, I love veterans, but I don't take positions, for the board, and the agency doesn't take positions on legislation unless it comes from Mrs. Stowers.
But you're providing data for
Even when
us.
it's not her birthday.
So we appreciate that. We appreciate the data you provide.
Yes.
And then we can make the decision here as board members, but I think we're going to be digging into this more in the future in terms of what the process is, so that we have a little bit more clarity. But thank you for the information you've provided. And are there other comments that the board would like to make? All right, wonderful. Let's see, so we are, do we have a motion that, for which we can move forward with?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation for the board to support SB 56. And then I have a question as well, if there's a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and Mr. Vasquez, you have a question.
And my question is to the Senator Ciarto. I think you heard earlier that obviously there's a financial impact based on our analysis here, but it's strictly on property tax. But I understand there's also some revenue offset from, I think we heard from our chair, in terms of sales tax. Do we know what that figure is? And how does that offset the cost?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because we had to get that calculation for another bill that we did. And that calculation, and it's not just sales tax, it's all of the contributions from our veterans that are leaving, is $500 million a year.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Correct, Nick?
Yeah, for personal, the personal sales tax was over $500 million, but for total business sales, it was actually over $2 billion. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and is that based on, would that be an annual figure if you took the annual number of veterans leaving, and then is that the calculation you've arrived at?
Yeah, the study was done by San Diego Military Advisory Council. They have been studying this for the last 10 years, watching the population decrease and the rate of decrease of age groups and compensation rates from all categories and of veterans. And that's what they've basically determined as a lost economic advantage to California.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, appreciate that. Any other questions or comments?
No, I just simply thank you very much for having us today, and hope you guys can support this bill.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Ciarto. And Vice Chair Lieber.
I just wanted to compliment the author and staff on putting together a great support list. And looking through the Senate Rev and Tax analysis, it's clear that these policies have not been updated in a very long time. And so I compliment you and fully support taking disability payments out of the equation when veterans may be eligible for a low-income designation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And then in conclusion, I want to thank you also for bringing this forward. It appears that there seems to be more action on veterans this year than I've seen in a long time coming out of the legislature. So that's very encouraging, and we're very supportive of your efforts. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much. And I think that's indicative of the economic conditions that people are suffering from right now,
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you.
especially our veterans.
Yes, okay,
A
very
long
well.
time coming, yeah.
Very well, okay. So we do have a motion and a second. I'd like to now ask for public comment on item 13. We do not have any written comments, and no one in the auditorium wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item that I can tell. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And please press 1 and 0 for public comment at this time. Okay, and we have no public comment at this time.
All right, thank you, moderator. And members, we've got a motion Member Vasquez has made a motion for the board to support SB 56 with Member Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Abstain.
Okay. The motion passes. And members, are we now taking lunch? I guess I tried to clarify, because we missed our break. So are we okay moving forward with lunch?
Well, we have, we believe that Mr.
Thank
Vasquez's
you,
office
Senator.
has, Mr. Gibson is coming at 12:30. Is that what's happening?
Okay.
Which is about 15 minutes. I was wondering if we could take a quick break. Well, and then come back for the presentation.
Okay, board members, how do you feel? Member
We're looking
Schaefer?
forward to an hour lunch or 45 minutes or what?
And then for an
We
hour
would
lunch
take a lunch,
after.
but it would be later. So right now, we're going to take
1
a short
o'clock
break.
lunch.
And then we'll come back. Do we have one more bill to hear? Or many more? Okay. Do you think, but that's the only hard time that we got to try to hit? Okay. Yeah, let's do that then. Excellent. So do you want to return at 12:30 or?
So we could, yeah, we'll take a formal recess right now and return
Wonderful.
at 12:30.
Okay, members, we've agreed on taking a break, a recess until 12:30.
Mr. Chair, what happened to item 11, item 10?
We're going to come back. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, okay, let him go to the restroom. Yeah, we